Well, here we go again. Another election promise, another backflip. Remember when Anthony Albanese vowed to slash power bills by $275? Yeah, turns out that was a load of bollocks. Now, Aussies are feeling the pinch, and the blame game is in full swing. But was this just a dodgy political move, or did the government seriously misjudge the situation? Stick around, because we're about to break down the controversy in a way the mainstream media won't dare to. Now, before we dig into the mess, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and let me know in the comments. And if you're sick of the political nonsense, grab my Albo Says Relax t-shirt, only $23 for the next 48 hours. Links in the description. Alright, let's rip in. So, let's rewind to 2022. The election was in full swing, and Albo was promising the world, or at least, cheaper power bills. A neat little figure, $275 in savings per household. Sounded pretty good, right? Voters lapped it up. The coalition had been in power for nearly a decade, and Labour's promise of cost-of-living relief was exactly what struggling Aussies wanted to hear. But here's the problem. Power prices didn't drop. They skyrocketed. And now, former Victorian Liberal Party President Michael Kroger has come out swinging, calling the whole thing a con job. And honestly, he's not wrong. According to Kroger, this wasn't just a minor miscalculation, it was a flat-out lie. No proper modelling, no concrete plan, just a flashy slogan to win votes. And let's be real, it worked. But now, Australians are absolutely fuming. They were told their power bills would shrink, and instead, they've ballooned. And the excuses? Oh, they're coming thick and fast. The war in Ukraine, supply chain issues, inflation. Labour has pulled out every trick in the book to dodge responsibility. But here's the kicker. When Albo made that promise, the energy crisis was already brewing. Experts warned about rising costs, yet Labour still went ahead with the claim. Now, they are pretending they never really meant it. Classic. The political fallout has been brutal. Polls are showing that voters aren't buying the spin, and the Albanese government is copping serious heat. Meanwhile, the coalition isn't exactly thriving either. Peter Dutton and his crew are struggling to turn public anger into political gain. But one thing's for sure, no one is forgetting that broken promise. And here's where it gets juicy. Albanese, instead of admitting fault, has doubled down. He's refusing to say sorry, despite mounting pressure, even from within his own party. Former Labour Senator Graham Richardson reckons politicians should just own up when they stuff up. But, as we all know, saying sorry in politics is rarer than a kangaroo on a surfboard. And it's not just about power prices anymore. This whole saga has exposed something bigger. How much faith do Australians really have in their leaders? If a PM can make a headline-grabbing promise, repeat it 100 times, and then walk it back without consequences, what does that say about accountability in Aussie politics? And if you thought that was the only controversy swirling around Albo, think again. Peter Dutton has just thrown another grenade into the political arena, proposing that new migrants should be tested on their stance towards anti-Semitism before being granted citizenship. The idea? Weed out extremists before they set foot in the country. Labour's response? They've completely dismissed it, with Albo calling it a soap bubble that won't last the day. But hang on, why wouldn't we want to make sure that people moving to Australia actually believe in the values we stand for? Seems like a fair question, right? The real reason behind Labour's reaction might have less to do with policy and more to do with politics. Some reckon that Albanese is feeling the heat from factions within his own party, particularly those representing electorates with large Muslim populations. It's all about keeping certain voter bases happy. And that's where things get messy. Meanwhile, across the globe, Trump is making waves yet again. His recent 2-hour phone call with Putin was meant to de-escalate the Ukraine war, but surprise, surprise, it didn't quite go to plan. Putin has given some vague assurances, but the shelling continues. And here's the wild part. Trump campaigned on the promise that he could end the war in 24 hours. Sound familiar? Another politician over-promising and under-delivering? Maybe that's why Albanese and Trump seem to have more in common than they'd like to admit. If Trump can't get a deal over the line, his credibility takes a hit. And let's be honest, Putin isn't exactly known for playing fair. He'll drag this out for as long as possible, waiting for Trump's term to end while solidifying Russia's grip on Ukrainian territory. If Trump fumbles this one, it could be a political disaster. So, Where does all of this leave us? Well, we've got a prime minister who made a massive promise, got elected on it, and then failed to deliver. We've got a government that refuses to admit when it's stuffed up. And we've got voters who are waking up to the fact that, in politics, words are cheap, but the price of broken promises isn't. And as for the next election, you can bet your last dollar that the coalition will be hammering this issue home. Whether or not that translates into votes is another question entirely. Because let's face it, Aussies have been burned before, and trust in politicians is at an all-time low. So, what do you reckon? Was Albanese's promise a well-intentioned mistake, or a calculated lie to win votes? And do you think politicians should be held accountable when they break their word? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more no-nonsense breakdowns of what's really going on in Aussie politics. Because let's be real, if we don't hold them accountable, who will?